want to start with the title itself because before I watched the movie, it's something I interpret a lot because I like to look at the title first to see how much would it inform me when watching. And I would say for your film, it doesn't. It does not, because it's just so bursting in experimentation and colors and the story. But I want to ask you about the word elephant, and in your mind, what are the elephants? Who are the elephants, I think?
Elephants are family, and I think that this film started out initially as a play, and the first draft of the play, it was like 2019, and I was directing another play that I had written, and was starting to write the first draft of this, and in sort of decompression mode was watching a lot of Planet Earth, and there was a section of Planet Earth that stuck on some elephants, and in the middle of a drought that found a pool of water. And I kept kind of like coming back. I was watching through the entire series that I had watched many times before, but then I would just keep kind of rewinding to this one section and just watch them drink from this pool of water. And then all these other animals would come and share in this pool of water in the middle of this drought. And it was, there was like apex predators. There was just like, but no one was eating each other or attacking each other, and they were just sharing water. And I think the thing with the elephants was, like, the elephants showed up as a family unit, and they traveled as a family unit, and that kept kind of sticking with me. And even before there was a family component to this story as I was writing it, that just sort of stuck with me, and then that image in various ways gets spoken about throughout the film. So I think that, elephants, there's something sort of just like spiritually there about elephants throughout the making of this thing, and that just kind of found its way in. Yeah.
You mentioned about the play and having written it 6 years ago now, 2019?
2019, yeah.
What was the process of adapting it into film? Because it must be a lot, and because the two forms are so similar, but at the same time so different.
Yeah, the process of the process of making it into a play, for me as a playwright during that period of time, I was becoming far more interested in what theater could be with far less speaking. And the theater work that I had seen, it kind of lived in two camps, where it's either very sort of like classic 3-act structure, or even 1-act structure, where you have a set, you have a group of people, and they're talking, and that's like the kind of classic. And I love that, and I have written that for years. And then there's another camp of what is it to explore movement, and what is it to explore space with less words. But then I started to feel like, can we like mix what if there was a set and it was a group of people and they really didn't speak all that often, and they just kind of experienced a space together and experienced life together in the way that I experience life, and I see others experiencing life, where we spend time in a room together and we are just experiencing the behaviors and the emotions of it. So coming into this as a play, I was playing with that, and there would be the long runs of the boys bickering and playing and exploring, and then in that first draft of the play, there would just be long moments where they just were hanging out in a bus and they weren't doing anything, and that was A big part of the intention with it as a theater piece, and then coming into it as a film, that made it far more natural to kind of lend itself to filmmaking, because it's far easier to do that with filmmaking. But then when pivoting to turning into a film, it was my wife who had encouraged me to start adapting it into a film script. And I had read lots of film scripts in my life, being an actor, and so I just kind of thought, well, this will be easy. I'll just put a whole bunch of like slug lines on stuff, and then that'll be a film script. And then I basically did that. And I was like, look, I wrote a script. And my wife was like, no, my love, that's not a script. That's a play with slug lines.
Yeah.
And but that began the journey of exploring the thing deeper, which I think we would have done regardless with a theater piece, but it really gave space to me to really see that ultimately what I was exploring is the internal mindset and what it is psychologically to live in a headspace when you're experiencing a trauma like this, and to explore it from a state of memory. The story, when it was a play and then turning into a film, is based on a true story that did happen to a dear friend of mine who escaped a youth detention center facility in the early 90s, high on LSD, stealing the detention center van, fleeing, and then spending a day in a parking lot with his friend, tripping balls, and then eventually turning themselves back in to this horrible place that was torturing them. And that then led to a series of other interviews and time spent with other survivors of other troubled teen schools. And most of that exploration, it was recorded conversations where people were generously sharing stories and time, but it was all from memory. And that's where it really began to be clear to me that the exploration of memory on this is really what it is we're going after. And that kind of led to everything else, the style of the script, and the style of how we shot it, and the style of how we edited it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And one thing that I think informs so much about the film without the characters talking at times is the music and the sonic world, and your work with Lou Tides. The original score, it's so amazing. And I think but my favorite part is when Claire de Lune is remixed to its max. My favorite moment. I wonder if you could speak more onto that, building that sonic world that complicates what you see visually, but also informs so much of what happens in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, her score is amazing. Her score is amazing, and I got so unbelievably lucky to be able to work with her on this. And this was her first feature film that she had scored, and and it had a lot of back and forth of us trying to find what the thing was in the beginning, and we talked a lot about what the sounds of this film are, and almost as if the sounds are music that could have been made by the boys themselves, and playing with lo-fi things, playing with a lot of crooked, cornered kind of sounds, and she built this world with music, and that was the thing that was so important, is that like there's a world that they're living in, and we're invited into that world, and it's their experience, and the music is the thing that is always there to guide us through. So if it's horribly brutal images, it's music and sounds that are either there that the boys are hearing to be able to vacate the experience emotionally and mentally. It's there for them to show each other how it is they're feeling, because they don't have the words to be able to express how they're feeling. We talked a lot about emotional life, and we talked a lot about thought life, and we just talked a lot about the boys. So yeah.
I want to ask more about your sensibility in writing the boys and directing the actors on set as well, because the film reads like a blur line between a lot of distortion but also tranquility when they find safety in one another in a world that is just so brutal to them.
Yeah.
Being an actor yourself, and with acting being so embodied, and a lot of the acting in this is so body heavy, what was that process like, especially working with a young cast as well?
I mean, I got just so unbelievably lucky to be linked with these two actors, with Kevin Ewan and with Hunter Dillon and Kim Ha and Ryan McDonald and Tony Napo and Liz Saunders and Fred Newman-Kahn. Am I forgetting other? Is that? I got so lucky with everybody who came on board for this, to a group of actors that functioned as a company, which being an actor myself in theater companies, and then and directing actors in plays, but everyone was there to explore and there to be present, and a lot of the process of working on this thing was speaking about these people as people and not these people as characters, and being able to play with that balance of, for me as a director, give a ton of space to them to be able to have these people that are their people that they're living in, and at the same time be present for them to be able to explore and go, right to the edge of the cliff, not over the cliff, but right to the edge of the cliff, and be there and be able to be present, so that they could really be lived in. And acting is extremely scary. It's extremely vulnerable, and everyone who came completely willing to go all the way to where the characters needed to go. We also had one of the greatest intimacy coordinators in the world, Alex Sedaris, on this, and that's just a huge plug that I'm trying to be able to put out there as much as possible, because I think that intimacy coordination is just absolutely important and necessary, and needs to be as dedicated a role on set as anyone holding a camera, and that is there, and it's us being able to hold space so that actors can fully do their job and fully go to a place that is the existence of these people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
The creative world that you've crafted for this film, I admire so much, but I also admire just how much responsibility that you take on yourself, especially dealing with this subject. And one thing that I love most about the VIF description of your film is that it attacks the industry of troubled teens, the so-called troubled teen institutions, which thrives on silence, basically. So what does it mean to you to make this visible, the problem, the industry, the trauma, and the sufferings? And what does that responsibility look like to you, not only as a filmmaker making this film to show it visually, but also moving forward with this message?
Yeah. I got really lucky to have people be so generous with their stories, and I grew up in the time period, a continued time period that still continues into right now. But I grew up with friends that would just kind of disappear. And then it would be like, oh, like, what happened to them? And it's like, oh, they went to this like school in like Costa Rica. I don't really know. And then they would come back. I'm thinking of one friend in particular, and there was a few instances of this. So they'd come back and they wouldn't talk about what happened there. But they were clearly very fucked up. And that's about, you know, as much information as I had on the troubled teen industry, but would hear like glimpses of stories from people, and understood that it was out there, but it wasn't being talked about in a way that was fully present. And then by the time I came around to this, it was enough of a building. It was enough of a build in my head around this industry that I was like, I don't know. I have a feeling about this, but I don't have the information about this, and I don't want to not have the information anymore. And that was really kind of what drove me to it. The architecture of the story that my friend had told many times of just like stealing the bus and being in this place. It was just like, that was a wild story, but ultimately underneath it, it was like, why don't I know about this, and why isn't this like as talked about as anything else? The responsibility of this is to make the film as honestly as possible, and being able to step back from it and allow the film to take on the life that it has creatively while we're making it. And so many folks who worked with me to help me understand this and share their stories were very, very connected throughout all the stages of this. And my job was to just be of service to that thing, and portray it in a way that was honestly what it is to live in the headspace. And that's what I was trying to stay true to the entire time. What is it to relive this experience when talking about it, and what was it to live it? I didn't live it, but ultimately the purpose of the film is to get people talking. It's just to have people talking, to have people then be like, what is that? Why am I hearing this term so much? Troubled teen industry. To then go on the internet and Google that, to go onto Reddit and find threads and talk to people or listen to people's stories. Because like that's what is there. People who have this experience, and it's our job to listen and then go and speak about it so that it finds its way to everyone knowing about it.
What do you hope for these conversations to change?
For them to be really normal, the conversations to be just really, really normal, and for people to listen, because these are experiences that happen to children, and most of the people that I was spending time with are adults, and they're talking about what happened when they were children. And then when they came back from these places, if they spoke about these things, people are not taking them seriously, because they're being treated as children, and children get very easily blanketed with being liars or being exaggerators, and I think that is, I would hope that what would change, and I think it is starting to change, is that people are just being simply taken seriously.